Well, as we all know, undoubtedly know, the best laid plans can sometimes be interrupted by life. Not a lot of people know this, at least before this video, but Beth Traverso and her family have gone through things that we would wish on no one. I will let her tell the story, but really what I want you to hear here is why real estate investing can allow you to make choices that others may not have made. So, Beth, I'll just sit back and let you kind of tell the story and we'll get into it after that.
Yeah, so I'm going to get, warning here. I'm going to get a little more vulnerable than maybe I normally would, but I feel like I like to be authentic and share with people what's really going on. Um, so we had a family crisis, health crisis. In February 1st, my husband was in a very serious snowmobile accident, very nearly lost his life. It's been a long saga. He was in the hospital for 77 days, came home about a month ago, was in intensive care. I mean, I won't get into all the details, but let's just say it was really severe and scary. He's doing amazing now. He's recovering. He's doing fantastic. He's like Superman. So super proud of him. He's doing so well. And but there's some things I wanted to share with, there's a lot of soul searching and things that come into focus when when a person's going through something like that. But I wanted to focus on not just like the personal things, but more like, because this is a real estate investing channel. So like, what are things that were lessons that I was glad that I had learned in the past that really, really became hyper valuable during this crisis time. And there's things about real estate investing that were able to make this a lot easier for me, and things that I had put in place to protect myself and our family that I'm really, really glad that I learned. So I wanted to share some of those things. There's 3 things with the audience to and get your opinion on it too, because it is important to protect ourselves. We as real estate investors, you have to be a little bit risk tolerant to do this kind of thing. Like, we're out there doing the things that others don't do, and that's why sometimes we can get the rewards that can provide. So, but you have to have your safety net in place for that. So like, that's what allows me, as a wife and mother, to be able to go out and do these things, is like having a safety net in place. And that's something you have to build over time, and you got to protect it, over time. So the first thing I wanted to mention was reserves. It's really important to have reserves, because that allowed me to feel like I didn't have to have the extra stress of finances during that time. Because when, obviously he's not working, I had to shift dramatically how I was working. And that was one of my other points, is how I did that. But just, income could be very volatile, or could just stop for a while during that time. I met a lot of people in the hospital who they had to fly to a different state and set up shop there, and, get, everything comes to a screeching halt. You have to be ready to handle that. People think about like, well, what if my tenant moves out, or this, like, could be anything could happen. You don't know. And it's hard. It's usually the thing that you're not going to predict that's going to hit you. It's not the thing that you think is going to happen. It's some other thing that you never could think would happen. But having the reserves, and there's a lot of debate about how much to have for that. And for me, it's more just like, I have my number where I know I can sleep well at night if I've got X amount of dollars. So
Well, let me ask about that because I want you to go through all 3. I actually think most people, I I don't know if it's done wrong or what I want to say. That I think actually, if you're a real estate investor, you need 2 emergency funds or reserves. One is your family unit,
yeah,
right? Your family bills, but you should also have a reserve for the properties. And I don't see
yeah,
those getting mixed. I think too many people mix them, and you start
yeah.
double counting and all of that.
hmm
So yeah.
Yeah, and for me as a business owner, I've got my business reserve too,
Oh, there you go. Yeah, exactly.
because that those business expenses keep rolling no matter what, and I don't want to stop running my business, because then everything stops. So yeah, that has to keep going no matter what. That's just
Well said.
autopilot. So
Well said.
yeah, there's those 3 different reserves, and I have, probably more than a lot of people would think I would need, but it's like, I'm telling you, I'm really glad I had that, because it allowed me to get through, and this is still ongoing, but it just
Yeah.
allowed me to go through that without being concerned about, am I going to be solvent at the end of all this,
Right.
so, um, And that brings me to the other one is like health insurance. So I'm not a W-2, have never really been a W-2 my entire life. I've had to provide my own health insurance my entire life. A lot of people in my shoes just don't have it, or they have very low coverage, or just weird plans that aren't real health insurance plans. And do not skimp on that. So for me, I have a group policy that Regents is the big carrier in Washington. I don't know what you guys have in your state, wherever you are, but there's the big ones, And so I bought the best group plan for my family, and it costs $2,400 a month. It's no small line item.
Yeah, just to everybody, mine's $2,000 a month, and that's only for 2 people.
Yeah.
So again, get help. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I have to say, because that was the first thing, a lot of people that really care about us were like, oh my gosh, what's this going to do to you financially with the bills, which are approaching 7 figures, these healthcare bills, and if you don't have, and we're healthy people too. We're not old, but we're not young either, but we're not like high. We've not had a history of health problems or anything like that. But having that coverage, because you don't know when an accident's going to happen. You could be in peak health and something could happen to you. So, and that one thing, if I didn't have that coverage, then you'd be wondering about like, what am I going to do? I have to declare bankruptcy to cover these bills. What are we going to have to do? Thankfully, now I'm not going to say the health insurance has been without snags with coverage and stuff that we're ironing out, but it's like small potatoes compared to what it would have been if I didn't have the right coverage, or I had some weird plan that only covered certain things under certain circumstances, certain days of the week, So that is something I'll always, invest in, because you just don't know. So that's one thing I want to say. When people are thinking about making that leap from a W-2 where that is paid for, just keep in mind that that's part of your compensation package, is that health insurance coverage that you're getting for your employer. When you don't have that, you just got to figure that into your cost of living as a self-employed person, or, real estate investor. So once you quit that. So I'm really glad that I have that. There still is money out of pocket, but it's way less than it would have been. And I'm super thankful for that.
Yeah.
The third one is delegation. Like we've learned, and this was the perfect stress test for my business, for my husband's business, and for our real estate business, those 3 things. What happens when all of a sudden everything gets turned upside down? Is it still going to run with or without you? That's my ultimate goal that I've been working on to build, is like, it can run without me and not skip a beat if need be. So what I was able to do is basically, so for my real estate business, I have my team that, you need to have your team, your ride or die, your people that are like, I got you, you take care of yourself and your family. We got this. And that they've got it. So, and I was still working, like, for my own sanity. I have to kind of do my thing. I can't just not do me, but I was able to thin down a lot of the unnecessary phone calls and things that I didn't have to do. And it did keep going without me being there in it, doing it, and for the most part, people didn't know what was going on, because I didn't want to stress them about what was happening, because we had them covered no matter what. The last thing they need is more stress. So I just made sure that I had the people in place to keep things going. And that goes for our real estate investing as well. It's like, we've got our handyman people, all the different people that can fix things or manage things or deal with that tenant that needs something. So we just focused on ourselves and our family during that time. So super important. Those 3 things made all the difference in the world. And I would say if nobody's born having that. You have to build that carefully over years. And hopefully you and people out there never have to deal with this type of crisis, but whatever the nature of the crisis is, sometimes you get smacked with life, and it's good to be able to have these ways to know that, you're going to build your resilience so that you can weather the storm and come back out fighting.
Yeah. So when I hear this story, and obviously we've talked off camera about it a little bit, but I think there were kind of 2 things that my brain went to. The first one, Really just kind of curious if your brain went there at all. But one of the first things my brain would go to in probably that situation is, if I need to raise a big pile of capital fast, I
Yeah.
would go, which 2 or 3 assets could I sell quickly? Because again, the beauty of building real estate, doing it for a long time, is some of these have significant equity in them. So one of the probably first things I would do, besides emergency funds and all of that, is I would go, just in case this is really bad, where could I go get 100 grand, 400 grand, 500
Yeah.
grand if I needed to?
Hmm.
So that was
Yeah.
something my brain would go to. I don't know if you experienced that too or not.
I did. Yeah. And that might be so, yeah. So I had thought about, because we had a rehab mid project, and I actually thought, do I need to fire sale this thing? And I looked into it, and then I realized, then I can't calm down a little bit. Like, no, we can finish this. We have our team that can finish the project, and then we get more out of it if we just finish what we started. But I went there, I was like, hey, do I need to just sell this thing and just be done with it? Because I don't want to think about that house. I don't want to deal with all the blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
I just want the money. And I found some people, but like, it was such, they were doing what I would do. People were making offers that were really, really low. And
Yep.
because it was a distressed sale, sort of, but,
Mhm.
and then
But
I
but
decided,
maybe
no.
instead of that one, like, did you go like, do you own any of your properties like below 50% LTV?
Yeah, most of them we're about
Yeah.
30% across the board
Yeah.
LTV.
So my brain would have went to one of the finished ones, maybe not an in project one. My
Yeah.
brain would have been, if I need to sell one, which is the one that's going first? I
Right.
would have
Yeah.
known that.
Yeah, so I did think about that. Yeah, because there's one that we have no mortgage on. That's there's a tenant in there with a lease, but I could find some landlord that would
Cash
buy
for
that.
keys or whatever, right? You could
Yeah,
get them
like
out.
yeah, you time to go. Well, how can we make this work? And yeah, we could do. It's just
Yeah,
it is somewhat reassuring just to know that that's an
exactly.
option.
That's
It's
where my
just that
brain would go. Yep.
security. It's that sleep well at night. Because the last thing anybody needs in the time of crisis where you're worrying about even bigger stuff is like, how am I going to pay the bills? That
Yeah.
sucks even worse. So I'm
Yes.
super thankful. Real estate investing has made it. So here's some good takeaways here. So real estate investing has made it so that I can weather a storm like this. If I was working a W-2 where they'd be like, sorry, you can't take your time off work. We got to fill your position. We'll give you 2 weeks, but then you got to come back or whatever, or, just having those assets that I can sell if I need to pull that. And we keep living our life just like we've been doing. Nothing changes in our life. That's really good to know. It's like, hey, if I did have to pay some huge medical bills, or I'm not able to work for 3 months, and like I got to pay, yeah, I got to pull money from somewhere, just knowing that there's any number of places where I can do that.
Yeah.
Tremendously reassuring.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Would
I
feel
mean,
good. Yes.
more than I can even convey to people, just that peace of mind is worth so much. And the far more than any kind of riches or splash or flat, that stuff doesn't matter at all. It's all about security and just feeling like you can live the life you need to live no matter what gets thrown at you. And the
Yeah.
other thing I want to say is that stress testing my business and my team and everything made me realize, and I had some of my friends go, it's like, well, maybe you don't need to be doing all that stuff that you were doing before, because it's still happening even when you weren't doing it. You weren't doing it, but it was still happening. And all I did was just I was the conductor of the orchestra. I wasn't in there playing
Yep.
all the instruments. I was just making sure everyone was doing what they needed to do. It
Mhm.
worked great.
There you
So
go.
it's got me thinking, well, maybe I don't need to do as much as I was doing. And maybe going forward, even after this has passed,
Yeah.
it affords me the Dion life, or other people that are out there doing and other people doing what you live in, what you want to do and doing your
Yeah.
passion. So that's something that real estate investing, as well as my real estate sales career, kind of hand in hand, have really provided that for me. And so I'm really grateful for that. I've got a lot to be grateful in this whole situation for. Lot to be grateful for.
Wow, that's amazing to hear. And I guess the final one, we're kind of trying to close on a kind of a positive note. Um, these events often are wake up calls, right? You never see them coming. That's kind of a personal black swan event.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've weathered it. You've just said you've learned a lot through it as well. But you still have more to go through. he still has some more to go through. But
Yeah.
are you guys already, it sounds like you could see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's not just a speck, it's
Oh
closer than
yeah,
that.
absolutely.
Have you already created some family plans or Disneyland trips, or how's the family going to kind of celebrate, these things? Have you thought
Yeah,
about that at
we're
all?
definitely so we had to cancel a trip to Hawaii in February. And so we're looking forward to going back to Hawaii. So that's like
You're
when
going to do it right, right? You're going to
oh
upgrade. You're
yeah.
going first class. You're going the whole
Mhm.
bit.
Yeah, the
Nice.
suite on the ocean, the whole thing, like we're gonna live that up.
You're going
So
to do that right. There
yeah.
you go. There you
Mhm.
go. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Beth, thank you for being vulnerable. The audience appreciates you. Folks, if you want to network or interact with Beth, you can get a hold of her. But more importantly, if you're looking to buy or sell a home across the country, why not work with or get a referral from a top 1% agent? How can they do that, Beth?
Yeah, so I have a wonderful network nationwide, like you just alluded to. And so, yeah, if somebody wants to connect with me or help me connect them with someone else, I can be reached. The easiest way to get my attention is to go through my website, bethtraversogroup.com. Just fill out the contact me and I'll get you taken care of, and would love to meet more people in the one rental at a time community.
Yep. When you fill out the form, just tell her you came from ORAT so that catches her attention. ORAT stands, of course, for one
Yeah,
rental at a time.
love it.
Thank you so much, Beth.
Thank you.